It's back to the Premier League this weekend, and the first of 2 home games in a row. It's Bournemouth up first. Alfie 7th in the league. They've been scoring for fun as well, so this could be an interesting afternoon.
Yeah, I think had we not had that FA Cup game yesterday, we'd maybe be saying, Bournemouth have had 1 or 2 results recently where they haven't been quite at it, despite a brilliant run for most of the season. We'd say that they hung in there at Portman Road, and maybe that'll give them a bit of confidence, a bit of a kick. But you feel like that has all been sort of drained now, and I guess it will be interesting to see how sort of Ivan Juric's pressing system comes up against Andoni Iraola's, which is very much in a later stage of its sort of evolution. So there's interest in there, but yeah, I find it very difficult to believe that this is going to be anything other than a defeat. Unfortunately, they look way better than Southampton do. It's second of 3 home games in a row, though, and I said on my final tweet actually from the game yesterday that I think all the FA Cup will be forgotten if they can turn something around and pull off a result against Bournemouth. He's got a job to do there, hasn't he? Because it seems like this time last season, the wheels started to fall off a little bit in the relegation, and you start to hear about sort of relationship breakdowns and players falling out with each other and falling out with the manager. And I think it gets a slippery slope from there. So I am intrigued to see what state the team is as of sort of next Saturday, whether they're still playing for each other, I guess, playing for the manager. We'll soon find out.
They're quick, Glen. They're strong. They work hard. All the things that we've been asking for this season. So it's going to be an interesting match.
Yeah, they're everything that we're not, and everything that we'd like us to be. They're flying. Obviously, having a ridiculous season. Iraola will be up there for, he should be up there for manager of the season with Nuno from Forest. But Slot will win it. But those two should be up there for doing it with less resources. Love the balance that Bournemouth have got in the team. 4-2-3-1, which is, I feel, the best formation to play. Just a bit of everything. They can do that because they've got 2 proper centre backs, Zabani and Hussein, who have both been excellent. Can both play and are both strong as well. I watched quite a bit of their game.
Ludicrously young as well.
Yeah, they're both 21, and I watched part of their game against Newcastle. And we all know Newcastle, physical team, very good team, and those 2 just didn't take a backward step all game. They were absolutely superb. So so Kirkes on the left, who's a proper fullback, gets forward, defends, bit of a lunatic, but he's a very good player as well. Midfield balance is good, and they got the 3 guys up behind the striker who were all good as well. Semenyo, David Brooks is playing at the moment, and Tavernier's come back. They've got good players all over the park, and they've hit that perfect season. It's a bit like us 10 years ago under Ronald Koeman, where they've got the players and they've got the manager, and it's all going in the right direction, and everything's great. And Cliver is the one. He's been scoring goals all over the place, hasn't he? So So the one weakness, if you want to call it that, they've got is they've been getting lots of injuries. So they're having to play Lewis Cook at right back at the moment. So if we're looking for something we could go at, then obviously Sulemana will be up against him. So that might be something to look at, but it's slim pickings. They're miles better than us in terms of the way they're managed, the way they set out, the players they've got. David Brooks is in the team at the moment as well. So be interesting to see him come back.
Glenn, you talk about sort of playing with no striker. They seem to have such a way of doing it, I guess. They haven't got a choice. They haven't got a striker. They're all injured. But they found a way of, with that front 3 and one more, just finding a way to keep scoring goals.
Yeah, well, is it Dango Atara is the kind of nominated striker now Evan Nielsen's injured. And he's the one who's up there most of the time, but you will see Semenyo drifting in there as well. And
that's a problem with our rigid man marking.
That's true.
There's going to be a lot of space in that middle.
Yeah. It does worry me. Bournemouth were the first team this season to, we were shocking when we went there. And I don't know if you remember the press conference afterwards where Iraola come out with that quote where he basically said, well, I'd rather have chances than possession.
Yeah.
And it was a real taking the piss, laughing stock type of thing. And then Semenyo said something along the lines of, well, we knew they'd give us a goal. And it was It was brutal. I mean, it was perfectly valid thing to say, and it was 100% accurate. But
yeah, it was regarding the quick free kick, wasn't it? We knew they wouldn't be prepared quickly if we moved off the mark.
Basically, we know they're crap, and they're going to give us something, and they're bang on. So fair play to them. It's I hope that their fans enjoy it for what it is, because they're going to have a summer of the vultures circling and people trying to pick off the manager, pick off certain players and stuff like that. So they've just got to enjoy it while it lasts. But I'm sure they're going to enjoy visiting St Mary's on next Saturday.
Well, I think I read today that they've gone, is it 7 consecutive away games without defeat in all competitions for the first time since 2016. So I'm pretty sure that that'll be one more at the weekend. We're going to have to be on it, Steve, aren't we, really, if we're going to get so much as a point out of this?
Yeah, we've got to be sharp and alert, and that's one thing we've not been in many games this season. In fairness, last week against Ipswich, we were better as a structure defensively, and it's got to be more of that sort of thing than more of what we saw yesterday, where Burnley had a good chance in the first minute or so, didn't they, where obviously Wellington cleared one off the line, and we were caught cold there, and that's the sort of thing that Bournemouth will certainly look to exploit. They scored a couple like from kickoff either last season or the year before. So they're them sort of having a plan to deal with sort of a team that isn't quite alert from the kickoff. They're pretty well versed in that sort of thing. So that's something we're going to need to be aware of. Just the pace coming from all angles is mildly terrifying, given our relative lack of it. Kind of in all areas, really. It's only really Sulemana and Aribo a little bit, I suppose. Maybe Wellington who've got that sort of out and out pace. We're a little bit sluggish, a little bit slow over the yards, and we don't want to be giving them a 20-yard sprint, because we ain't winning any of them. So it's got to be quite a compact game. We probably, I'd almost be saying we might need to defend quite deeply against them. But I don't know whether we've kind of got the patience for it. But we'll see. Ordinarily you'd read home game against Bournemouth. Well, okay, you're going to try and win this game. You're going to attack and kind of plan for your players being better than theirs. But Bournemouth at the moment are a very different beast, and they are European. They're a European chasing team, which feels faintly ludicrous to be saying. But
has that surprised you this season?
That is the reality.
Has that surprised you how well they've done?
It's not surprised me based on last season. I think once Iraola got his feet under the table, because obviously a slow start last season when he took over from Gary O'Neill, when you had all of the "be careful what you wish for" mongers. Sort of out in force, saying, "Well, look at him; he's not won his first 7 games," and whereas Gary O'Neill's got Wolves beating Man City, and it's I think you can see the progression that they're making. They're very smart in the transfer market. They sold Solanke for big money, and they already had the replacement lined up for 20 million less. And yet that's, £45 million for a centre forward. That's the going rate for a guy who is going to deliver the goals for you. And we're not competing in the same shops at the moment. And that's the reality of the situation, regardless of size of club, history of club, sort of whether we've been chucking a fiver into buckets in years gone by and all that sort of thing. It's all meaningless now. They're a very good side, and at the moment they're a very well run club. What they will find is the same as we found a few years back, is that as soon as your head bashes against that glass ceiling, you can tumble down pretty quickly. Yeah. And you would expect that. You can't be 100% sort of successful in the transfer market, and with the PSR regulations as they are, and where the way they're going to change, I think will particularly affect someone like Bournemouth with their capacity of 27 people. You just can't generate the revenue, which is what all the new regulations they're talking about is going to be based on. So Bournemouth are going to be at a huge disadvantage. So that's why it's so important for them to kind of make the most of the situation now, because let's be honest, it won't last.
Well, Steve, they've just made their first multi-club model transfer, haven't they? With a French 21-year-old striker called Junior Kroupi from Lorient, who's meant to be one of the sort of best of his age group in Europe, and that's exactly what you want to see from a multi-club model, isn't it? And they're starting to see that. Yeah,
be interesting to see how that pans out, because I'm sure I read something about a year or so ago where Lorient fans weren't happy with the that sort of ownership model, because obviously Bournemouth are taking sort of prime position in that structure, and Lorient clearly have lost out here because they're getting 9 million quid for this kid who could be worth 3-4 times that. Yeah. So yeah, I mean these things. I mean, we've obviously got similar with Gustepe, Valenciennes, and we'll see how it bears fruit. I mean, given the way things have gone with Sports Republic, forgive me for being slightly cynical as to how that pans out, but proof of the pudding will be in the eating. We'll see how that goes.
Well, we have, I mean, for the first time in a long time, we have got the chance to get back-to-back wins in the league, and I never thought I'd be saying that. So the entries for the Predictions League are open, by the way, for the patrons that play along. You can find the link in Patreon. I'm going to go around and ask the panel for some predictions. Glenn, you're smiling. I'm going to ask you first. Do you want to pick a number? I'm going 4, by the way. I think I'm going to go 4-0 to Bournemouth.
This is going to be wildly optimistic.
You go for a win.
Predictions from everyone. No, I'm not. We'd won yesterday, and you got 2 wins in a row. I would have turned up at the ground next week with a little bit of optimism that we could have gone into it. But I mean, talk about getting your balloon punctured. Yeah, I mean, yesterday was shocking. So, as it is now, I now expect us to get completely battered. To be honest. As I said, they started the whole laughingstock thing, and I think they will want to batter us if they possibly can. I don't think it will be get to 2-0 and then stand off. I think they'll keep going. They will be out to batter us. So I'll say 4-1 Bournemouth.
4-1. Okay. Steve?
Oh God. Yeah, I wonder whether, I mean, Bournemouth have obviously had this terrific run for over a long period of time now with a lot of injuries. I mean, you look down their bench in basically all of the last sort of month to 6 weeks, and I don't think any of the numbers are less than 40 something on the squad numbers. They are basically their sub bench is basically their academy. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think we're in that situation where the only thing that can go our way is complacency on Bournemouth's part. And I mean, it's possible. It's possible that they turn up thinking, well, they're just going to roll over for us. And if something clicks for us, then yeah, maybe we can take advantage like we did last week. I'd be very surprised, but kind of going to cling to the hope that we're not going to make a complete embarrassment of it. And I think they'll nick it 2-1.
2-1. Okay, and then Alfie?
I'll drop in the middle and go for a 3-1 for Bournemouth. But I am interested in the point that you made, Glenn and Steve, to be fair, about the fact that the amount of pace they have and the aggression and the energy they have versus in a fluid front four versus that kind of rigid man-marking system. We saw how Ipswich pulled Saints apart a little bit in the first half. I am intrigued to see how that goes. And that's a good point.